I always tell people I have two titles. I have CCO and CLO. CCO is Chief Common Sense Officer, and CLO is Chief Listening Officer. And those are the skill sets that a tool cannot provide.
I'm Hal Marcus.
And I'm Maymang Woodiway.
And this is Meeting of the Minds, the legal AI podcast from Evisort.
We interview lawyers, professors, and legal operations pioneers that are pushing the envelope.
Leaders using technology to drive great business outcomes and shape the future of the profession. Maymay, this month we are sharing our interview with LaTanya Langley, who is both the Chief Legal Officer and the Chief People Officer at Edgewell Personal Care.
Yeah, I met LaTanya back when I was still a 3L in law school. We had just started Evisort. And then although I was a student, I was attending conferences like the Association of Corporate Counsel to try to drum up business. And I was absolutely in awe of her background, being general counsel at BIC at the time. She had worked leading legal at Guinness in Ghana, so much international experience. And, these days she's actually teaching legal technology and how to be a general counsel at UConn Law. And I've been lucky enough to actually attend her class as a speaker the last few years. And she's really setting up the next leaders of law.
This was such an interesting conversation. LaTanya shared a lot about the challenges and the benefits of wearing both the HR and legal hats, and yet how, in a way, she's been doing that all throughout her career. She talked about embracing a digital workforce, dealing with the ethics of implementing AI, and as you said, prepping the next generation of lawyers. In particular, she talked a lot about how the really unusual range of international experience that she's had in her career really helped build her mindset, her resilience, and has helped her empower other women in legal and business roles.
Well, I'm excited for folks to hear this one. Let's hit it.
LaTanya Langley, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
LaTanya, we've known each other for years, and I was so excited when you could join us here on Meeting of the Minds. But as I've known you for years, for a long time, you've been a dynamic legal leader. But what's a bit newer is your role as a people leader, because you serve as both Chief Legal Officer and Chief People Officer at Edgewell Personal Care. And so kicking off, I know that Chief People Officer role might be a little bit foreign to some of our listeners. I'd love to hear what are some of the biggest challenges that you deal with daily if you were to put your CPO hat on for us first.
Yeah, so I am in this very new, interesting role. However, I believe that I've always been a Chief People Officer that happened to be a lawyer. So the role that I was tapped for was the CHRO. And I knew that the reason that I was tapped for that role is because I'm focused on the hearts and the minds of our people. I always have been. And so I changed the title to Chief People Officer, but essentially I'm responsible for both the legal function and the HR function. So in this capacity, I have the typical responsibilities that a chief legal officer would have over litigation, intellectual property, contracts, compliance. And now, as the head of the global people function, I also lead the strategic agenda that supports the company's global employees by driving growth, building and developing capabilities, leading through change, nurturing culture, and delivering innovative people solutions. And what I love about that is I was already doing that. So I just now can be more involved in the strategy and the transformative effects on our people and own the culture. Challenges, most people don't see those two roles together. Although having both roles within an organization brings about a very unique set of synergies and challenges. Both roles are pivotal in shaping an organization's culture, ensuring compliance, and fostering a thriving work environment. Both roles are responsible for compliance and ethics. They both are responsible for a unified approach to risk management, enhanced employee relations and conflict resolution, and strategic policy development. So these roles that used to collaborate on these particular topics are now all in one person. So I think there's amazing synergies there. Now, there, of course, are challenges. How do you balance legal compliance with employee advocacy? So one of the major challenges is finding how do you balance what's required by the law with an employee's rights and their well-being? And so my primary focus is not only protecting an organization's legal position, but that also can conflict with what a CHRO would focus on, which is employee advocacy. The other challenge is managing confidentiality and transparency. Both roles deal with sensitive information, but the CLO is typically tasked with maintaining the confidentiality to protect the organization, where a CHRO needs to promote transparency and build trust with employees. So how do you find a balance between those two? It's very challenging. And then aligning different priorities. So the CLO and the chief people officer may also have different priorities and different approaches. One may prioritize risk mitigation and legal protection, whereas the other, the CHRO, may focus on engagement and culture and employee development. So again, trying to align those priorities requires very careful negotiation and collaboration with myself. And then lastly, just navigating regulatory changes. Both roles have to stay abreast of what's constantly evolving around regulations, and both roles are typically working together to coordinate efforts to ensure that an organization remains compliant, but also foster supportive and innovative workplace initiatives. So putting them both together, you have those synergies, but you also have to be very careful with the challenge of balancing the differences in order to create a harmonious and legally sound workplace that values and supports its employees.
Both roles have something else in common too, and I wonder if this is a factor for you. Both roles strike a little bit of fear in the hearts of people when they come up. Oh no, HR is contacting me. Oh no, legal is contacting me.
Oh no, LaTanya's contacting me. Like, it doesn't matter what the title is. As soon as my name pops up, there's this fear. But I think once the call ends, it's my job to ensure that teammates are feeling supported, then they're feeling respected, and that they're feeling joy. So what might have started off as a fear conversation always ends as a I am valued conversation, no matter what the topic is.
Excellent. Shifting gears a little bit, I'd love for you to put your CLO hat on and just talk to folks about some of the biggest challenges in particular that you deal with as a CLO at Edgewell Personal Care these days.
Wow. I think some of the biggest challenges that we are dealing with today are around technology. I mean, I think things are changing so fast, and making sure that we stay abreast of all the changes, we keep up with all of the changes, and we're using all of the right tools and resources in order to get those tools. We have litigation, we have disputes, we have regulatory agencies that we have to manage too. But at the same time, we have to make sure that we are building the right capabilities, we're driving growth, we're coming up with innovative solutions. And it's almost as if we spend more time working on innovation and growth than we actually do in being lawyers. So I think that whole productivity and all these transformative effects are what's changing in the practice of law in-house that we just didn't have to deal with years ago. Before, all you had to do was just be a good lawyer. Now, it's not only do you have to be a good lawyer, but you also have to be willing to grow and be innovative and drive change and keep up with all the new technology and technological developments.
The flip side of that, of course, is back in the day, being a good lawyer also meant being stuck in the office for an extra 3 hours waiting for the word processing group to come back with the changes you put on the hard copy, keeping track of a lot of variables without any tech to support that. So there's obviously that trade-off. It gives you more control in some ways, less control in others. You teach this. How do you balance that as you educate people on the right ways to use tech and the ways not to get sort of lost in it?
Yeah, so I've been teaching at UConn Law School now for 4 years. And the first 2 years, the focus was on being a good in-house lawyer and teaching skill sets for law students to be effective once they have a job in-house. And that, I mean, speakers that I had come were engaging, they were, distinguished experts, but the topics were around how do you draft a contract? How do you negotiate? How do you write memos? It was really focused more on sort of the substantive knowledge that you needed to succeed in a law department. But then I noticed that practicing in-house started to change over the last 2 years. And the focus was really about legal leadership within the technology sector. And so my class evolved from being global in-house practice to now legal tech in the role of the in-house lawyer. And so now the course is focusing on how do you practice law in the age of technology? So key topics include the intersection of AI and cybersecurity, using social science to leverage social media and technology. How do you network now? Before it was, how do you have a conversation with someone? Now it's like, well, how do you use social media to connect and to network? And discussing some of the legal challenges posed by emerging technologies. And now I have a tech workshop, which is, again, not something that would have been so critical for law students 2 years ago. And so I think over the years, legal tech has undergone such dramatic transformations, and it's revolutionizing the way lawyers practice and engage with clients. And so while initially the adoption of technology in the legal field was slow, and many professionals were skeptical about it, now technology has advanced so much that it's streamlined processes, it's enhanced efficiencies, it's improved accuracy. So now the legal sector is embracing these innovations more readily, and students need to be informed about this and ready, or they're going to get left behind.
When they go into firms these days, as you and I both did early on, right, had that first experience, are they expected to be knowledgeable about the tech? Or are they coming into a situation where they're bringing the knowledge from what they've learned from you and what they've done in school and finding that maybe they're ahead of the older generation that's running the firm?
I would say that I still think law schools are behind in this, in that they're still telling students they're not allowed to use AI. And so when they come to my class, they're looking at me and they're shocked and they're stunned when I say to them, no, you have to use AI to pass this class. And so there's still this hesitancy in many law schools, not just mine, to allow law students to use these AI-powered tools because they want students to still use the old way of research, the old way of getting things done. And at the end of the day, if law schools don't catch up with this, then law students are going to be at a disadvantage once they start working at law firms and realize that many law firms are using these tools. And not only are they using these tools, but they don't need the same skills that law students bring to legal practice that we needed them for before. Like a lot of things, site checking, I don't even know what they are anymore, but all the things that we used to use for summers and first year law students, we have tools that can do that now. So we don't need that skill. What we do need now are people that know how to use the tools and can think out of the box, that have stronger soft skills, and students that can use these tools to not only expedite the processes, but also reduce the likelihood of error and help us get more precise outcomes after we have the information. So it's just a different way of practicing that students really need to be ready for.
There are things that we leave behind that I am nostalgic for as we keep advancing in technology. Blue Book and site checking, oh my God, no nostalgia whatsoever. Absolutely automate that one.
Yeah, I mean, I think most law students would agree with you about leaving the blue booking behind. But I think to your point, LaTanya, these law students are looking at a drastically different legal industry that they're entering than what we've seen in the past. And as a lecturer myself, I know there's a lot of concerns around AI, in particular around potentially reducing headcount as it's automating some of these tasks. And so I'm curious, both as a lecturer mentoring students, your thoughts on those from a lawyer perspective and reducing headcount for lawyers, but also from a CPO perspective, just the idea of potentially concerns around reducing headcount with AI generally.
Yeah, so I told my law students, yes, you should be concerned because now there's a requirement that you need to be able to navigate the legal landscape with technology. Before it was just you needed to learn how to navigate the legal industry. That was it. And that changed now. And so what I tell my students is, listen, you need to embrace technological proficiency. You have to understand the latest legal technologies. Even if your law school is saying you're not allowed to use it, you have to familiarize yourself with AI-driven tools that can streamline legal research, that can do document review and case management. Not only is this going to enhance your efficiency, but it's going to make you an asset to a firm or corporation. They need you. They need you to help them use these tools. The other thing is they need to understand the ethical implications of these AI's integration into legal practice. So, for example, I've had students prepare assignments for me, and I could literally read what they sent me and knew that they just pulled it right off of Copilot or some particular tool. I can do that myself, or a law firm partner can do that himself. But what we can do is make sure that we are clear on where there may be bias or whether or not the information is correct, whether or not we can use this particular information ethically. And so that's where law students come in handy. The other thing I said to them is they need to focus on their soft skills. Again, AI can handle technical tasks, but it cannot replace the human touch. It cannot replace empathy, communication, negotiation, client interactions. When you show up to court and you make an argument, all of that stuff becomes even more important. And being able to work collaboratively with other lawyers, you got to focus on those skills. Again, you should learn how to use AI for routine tasks. So there are things that you could use AI for that will free you up so that you can focus on more complex and strategic aspects of the job. So you can do more thinking and less administrative type work. The other thing is be open. Again, the legal field is rapidly evolving and you just got to be adaptable and keep learning. Go to workshops, webinars, take courses, and learn how to use these latest developments because they're from the moment I started the class to the moment I ended the class, which is only a semester, there were new technologies that existed. And so, again, stay abreast of the new technology. Network with tech-savvy professionals. Build a network both within and outside of the legal field with people who are knowledgeable about these insights in these innovative products. Advocate for the responsible use for AI. If your firm or your school is against the use of this technology, you can become a champion for the responsible use of AI. And you can advocate for the implementation of tools. And by promoting this, you're contributing to the positive transformation of that organization. And also, you want to balance AI with judgment. Like a lot of students still don't understand that there's so much value to judgment and being able to do legal reasoning, have informed decisions. AI can only get you the information, but where is your judgment and your intuition? So those are some of the tips that I provide to my students. And I think I'm giving them a gift by teaching this class, just like they're giving me a gift by learning these different technologies and showing me how they work.
So you mentioned the ethical pitfalls, being aware of the ethical use cases around that AI use. What are some of those pitfalls that you have to look out for?
So when you're integrating AI in either your in-house legal department or even a law firm, it's so crucial to strike a balance between embracing innovation and maintaining ethical standards. And so You have to develop and implement policies that ensure that AI tools are being used responsibly and in compliance with legal and regulatory requirements. It's not that you can just pick up any tool and just start using it as a company. That's not going to work. But you also can't just ban it as a company, which, by the way, I know a lot of companies, a lot of GCs took that approach at the beginning. And I told them they were making a big mistake by banning it altogether. Now they're trying to play catch up. But it's very important to regularly review and update these policies to keep pace with technological advancements and evolving legal landscapes. So again, come up with the policies, don't ban it, but as you come up with these policies, make sure that you're regularly updating them and you're making those policies available to your teammates. And also training teammates on how to be proficient in using these tools, because that's also going to enhance productivity, accuracy, client satisfaction, and it will help maintain the integrity of your legal in-house practice or at your firms.
Do you think it's hard to balance the fact that legal has to go and govern everyone else's use of AI? But then when you look at the lists of AI, Gen AI use cases, legal's always in the top 5 or 10 in that list of things to be automated. And so we're feeling the pressure at the same coin to use it in our own departments and stuff. How do you think about balancing that dual role?
Yeah, it's a hard role and hard position to take. But again, if you put the right policies in place and you're constantly reviewing those policies and updating those policies to keep pace, then it reduces the risk for lawyers as well as for your business teams of having issues there. You just got to stay ahead.
Nice. And I mean, I think what's also right about staying ahead on that is the idea of the digital workforce is a burgeoning one. As more businesses incorporate agents and kind of use them as a potential, workforces internally as well. I would just love to get your perspective and thoughts on that, which is a more advanced use case for AI, but one that many companies are looking at, just how you approach that as a people leader.
Yeah, so I think the potential of a new digital workforce presents both opportunities and challenges. So integrating AI can enhance the efficiencies, accuracies, and accessibilities to various aspects of both legal work and HR. And that's from managing contractual obligations, drafting key business and legal documents. You can review resumes. You can, basically AI can take over a lot of the routine tasks that we typically ask either lawyers or even our younger HR associates to focus on. Now we can use those same people to focus more on complex and strategic issues and not on routine tasks. So managing a digital workforce, though, requires a nuanced understanding of both technology and either contract management or human resource management. So on the human resource management side, AI can assist in self-service questions about HR policies. It can reduce the workload on HR departments and increase employee satisfaction. Everyone says that they're burnt out, and it's because they're doing a lot of these routine tasks and they're trying to help their business partners achieve certain strategic goals. And so if you remove the routine tasks, it reduces the workload on HR departments and it increases employee satisfaction. AI-driven resume reviews can streamline the hiring process and you can candidates a lot faster than before. And it also ensures that the best candidates are identified efficiently, as long as you're watching out for bias. And so, again, it's crucial that you have a balanced perspective, because while AI can be very helpful, people are concerned that this could reduce headcounts in certain areas because you don't need the same human efforts that you needed before. So the key here is to really find a harmonious balance where AI is only handling repetitive tasks and humans can focus on areas that require critical thinking, empathy, creativity. And then for young lawyers, same thing. Really honing in on their unique human skills are going to be essential. There are skills that we have as individuals that no machine can replicate. And so if you continue to focus in on those skills and then you remain adaptable and you're continuously learning about these tools, there are benefits to having this digital workforce to drive innovation and growth, as long as you're reminded about the importance of the human aspects that are still needed.
On this issue of workforce reduction and replacing of jobs, we've talked about how earlier in my career, I focused on different use cases of AI, in particular around e-discovery, where legal was kind of on the forefront of AI adoption because the numbers just demanded it. And what we saw was, yes, in the short run, the room full of 100 attorneys wading through the dreck of completely unresponsive emails in the context of litigation certainly had a short-term impact on those roles. In the broader scheme, though, it reduced the cost of e-discovery. It meant the scope of discovery in a case could be broader. It meant cases could be brought that otherwise were cost prohibitive because the cost of discovery would be so onerous. The industry absorbed those changes to a large degree, and it just changed the nature of how we operated. Do you see the capacity for that to continue when we also have so many use cases happening simultaneously with AI today?
Yeah, I mean, I'm personally excited about the AI use cases in both legal and HR. I think they hold immense promise. For example, I mean, you used a great example, but AI can streamline the management of contractual obligations by tracking key dates and terms and flagging potential compliance issues. That reduces the risk of oversight and ensures that we have all of the contractual commitments and that those commitments are met promptly. But once you have the information, then what? And that's the part that I think both legal and HR need to embrace. These tools empower employees to not only get accurate information, and they save time because now they can focus on the HR side, the employee experience. They can provide immediate support, which they couldn't do before because they were so focused on getting the information. It's changing the game. It's allowing our teammates to be more responsive, make better hiring decisions, to have more thorough evaluation processes. And so, yes, I know that there's some fear here, but I also feel like those same professionals, if they really focus more on strategic initiatives and on driving organizational success, and they're using these use cases to be more efficient, that's where you're going to get the long-term benefits of increased accuracy, efficiency, and satisfaction.
Just going back a little bit too, I just want to dig some more into the synergies of the role between the chief people officer and the chief legal officer. Because when you were talking before, it really struck me, especially when you think about employment litigation, benefit and stock plans, and employment agreements, RIFs, and just the fact that there's a whole regulatory landscape to keep track of as an HR specialist. It seems like in a lot of cases, it wouldn't hurt. It'd be quite beneficial to have a lawyer being a chief people officer. I mean, did you strike that? Did you find more benefits than you expected coming into it?
Absolutely. I remember when I was only focused on the law, I was basically advising what you should do, what you can't do, how do we manage these risks. This is what the law says, but you can make the decision, but this is what the law says. Now I'm actually the one implementing things. So now I feel like I can have more of an impact because I know what the risks are. I know what the issues are, but now I can actually implement whatever the objective is. So I feel more empowered to have the chief people officer role than before. One was more advisory and one is more strategic and impacting the bottom line. And I get to do both. At the same time, I also have to be very cognizant of drawing the line between the two. When am I wearing the HR hat and when am I wearing the legal hat? But at the end of the day, my role, whichever hat I'm wearing, requires common sense. And that you can't get through any tools. So that is my superpower, right? I always tell people I have two titles. I have CCO and CLO. CCO is Chief Common Sense Officer, and CLO is Chief Listening Officer. And those are the skill sets that a tool cannot provide.
You mentioned before automating certain tasks around contracts and elevating some of the information in contracts. What are the implications of contracts and knowing what's in them for your role in HR?
So again, I really try not to combine the two roles. So what I do is I rely on the lawyers on my team to keep me abreast of what's in the contracts, what they're finding when they're managing these obligations and drafting key business terms. And then once they provide me with that information, then I can act as the chief people officer and help the business make the right decisions. So it's really hard. I loved being the lawyer and I loved being the one finding out all of the answers that the HR team needs. But I really try to make a distinction and let the lawyers be lawyers and then provide me the information that I need regarding our contract obligations and whatever they find from using their technologies. And then I take that information and use that to advise the business.
And what are some of those data points that are really valuable to you that you get from the team?
Wow. So I think, well, they definitely key dates, key terms. Now they can flag various compliance issues that I probably would not have been able to find without looking through each and every single contract. Now tools can just flag them all for you. The Evisort tool, for example, literally will pull up issues that the human eye cannot find, or maybe they can find it over a period of months. Now they can find that in minutes. And so it gives us more time to figure out solutions and reduce the risk of oversight. And I find that we're much more efficient and faster about resolving business issues because we have the information in front of us in a shorter time frame. And that's on the legal side. The same thing with HR. It's like before you had to go through and search through policies and search through various benefits to be able to answer questions from teammates. Well, now you have tools where you can search and that information will pop up and you spend more time actually helping the employee. I call it giving them white glove service because you can provide immediate support with the information that you received in a shorter period of time. So those are some examples of how we're efficiently working through a lot of these issues that we could not do before.
Indeed. And I think the importance, like you said, of that speed and being nimble, right? I think of the recent change somewhat nationally, right? From a non-compete perspective regulatory, right? Where a lot of non-compete language was invalidated for some companies. And if you're not able to quickly answer questions that you might not have been able to ask before, you're not going to be able to react to that quickly and have the best outcomes for your people. And so, yeah, really leaning into that advanced technologies that can speed your teams up in those ways that can be impactful.
Yeah, and it can give you an initial, thought on a particular topic that you had no information on before. And then you can always go back and do a deeper research, but at least at the moment, it allows you to have a position or at least some insight to help inform a discussion you may be having about a topic that you don't really know about off the top of your head. So I think the tools are really helpful because you can get quicker answers. And in my office, we have an open floor plan. So in a cubicle, it's me, the CFO, the chief operating officer, and the CEO. The four of us sitting there all day looking at each other. So if any one of them looks at me at any point during the day and asks me a question, now I have tools that I could at least drop in the question and have something to start with versus getting up and going to the bathroom and then trying to research and answer. It really provides a sense of efficiency and responsiveness that I didn't have before, and then gives me time to go back and really do the deeper research later. But I just didn't have that benefit before.
I have this vision of the four of you like in Severance in my head now.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. We have a lot of collaboration and we have a lot of fun. But I got to tell you, having these tools really makes it possible for me to be more responsive in the moment than I could before.
in the shifting regulatory environment that we're in, that's more important than ever. We've been focusing on some of your unique attributes as a people leader and a legal leader, but you have several more of those, especially from a professional perspective. And one thing that I think might be interesting and other lawyers might be interested in hearing about as they think about their career paths is how you've been able to be such an international lawyer. That you've worked as a general counsel and corporate secretary of Guinness's breweries in Ghana. And even after that, when you were at BIC, you started off leading and managing all the legal matters internationally at BIC before becoming the vice president general counsel overall. And so would love to hear just some of your experiences there and maybe advice for folks who see their legal careers and maybe want to take it beyond domestic borders potentially.
Yeah. So when I was a young lawyer working at Diageo, I remember being very eager to learn, eager to grow, and willing to try things that most people would not be willing to try. And one of those tries was requesting an assignment in emerging markets. And all my colleagues looked at me like I was crazy. Like, why would you want to go work in emerging markets? We're comfortable here in the Northeast with our big yards and our families and our comfortable lives. Why would you even want to do that? And I took the assignment that no one else wanted and had the opportunity to go and work and live in West Africa. And I will say that working and leading in West Africa really challenged me to adapt to different contexts, different perspectives and expectations. It allowed me to develop my skills such as empathy, intuition, communication, collaboration, innovation. I witnessed how many of these West African kings and queens and leaders overcame obstacles, embraced opportunities, and inspired others with their vision and their passion and their resilience. And learning all of those things and living in a place where I had no friends yet. Now I have more friends there than I have here in the States. But I was able to learn how to integrate with their values and their purpose. And it basically leading there taught me to be more humble and curious and courageous and to really appreciate the diversity and complexity of our world. I actually discovered my Nigerian roots by doing ancestry.com once I returned. So I was really happy about that. And then once I went to BIC, I wanted to continue expanding upon this West Africa emerging market experience. And so I took on a general counsel role for emerging markets. And so I was responsible for Middle East, Africa, Asia, Latin America, even Europe. And I loved that role because I had an opportunity to work with people from various cultures, religions, and backgrounds. I mean, I traveled to uncharted territories where I practiced law in high-risk markets. I mean, and as a woman serving in these markets, there were so many challenges that I had to manage through. But those challenges really helped me become more resilient and to create opportunities for other women in leadership, to model success in these uncharted spaces. And it really, really helped me inspire other women to do what I did, which is to take on new roles that are traditionally held by men. And I think these roles really helped me learn how to come up with bold solutions, how to cultivate courageous leadership, and create opportunities for others. So again, in those roles, I was all about people. And it really helped me have this international point of view for growing both lawyers and other professionals. And I think it's critical in the type of lawyer that I am today, because that mindset is what made me open to this new digital workforce and these new technologies, because I learned how to work in a space where there were no rules yet. So I think it was just natural. It prepared me for the times that we're in right now.
Wow. Let me just ask this one question then. With all of that experience that informs what you do now, if you could go back and talk to your younger self before you had all those experiences and just impart one piece of information, one bit of advice, what would you say that would be?
Be willing to take a risk. Always be willing to take on the assignments that no one else will raise their hand for. I also tell students to not be afraid to tackle new challenges and just lean in and take up space. Because had I not taken on that assignment, and I'm kind of mad I didn't take it on sooner, but had I not taken on that assignment, I know for a fact that I would not be where I am today because I have certain skill sets, I have certain experiences. I've seen so many things working in, 50 different countries that I have an edge over most attorneys. I have a different perspective. I have a global mindset. And had I not taken that assignment that no one else wanted, I don't think I would be in the roles that I am in today.
Wow, that's prescient. And it does go so much to even the advice that you had for students about those non-traditional skill sets and the outsized advantage that you could have with those, and how taking a risk sometimes can be just an incredible opportunity in your career. Thank you so much for your time today, LaTanya Langley. We really appreciate you having you on as guest.
Thank you for having me. And I always say my calling is to ensure that I am creating a path for those who come behind me. And that includes creating new opportunities, opening up the pipeline for young lawyers and young professionals, and really just leaning in and creating opportunities that are not the typical road traveled. And so anytime that I have a chance to talk with you and the team to let people know my passion around this, I truly embrace and appreciate. So thank you for having me.
Thanks, LaTanya. Great talking to you.
Meeting of the Minds, the Legal AI podcast, is brought to you by Evisort. To learn more about Evisort and how we can help you contract better with AI, visit Evisort, EVISORT.com.
You can find Meeting of the Minds on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever else you listen to podcasts. Don't forget to click subscribe so you won't miss future episodes.
On behalf of everyone here at Evisort, thanks for tuning in.